Everybody follows somebody. Whether we realise it or not, what or who we follow determines the values we hold, the behaviours we replicate, and the people we become. Yet few of us truly spend time asking the questions that matter, of the things that matter most to us. In this 6-week series, we ask the hard questions of a faith that asks us to follow, yet often appears in culture as irrelevant, outdated, riddled with errors, and full of mythology. Hey, I'm Anthony Thorpe. I'm a graduate of Moorlands College and I'm a pastor at Coastline Vineyard Church. Welcome to Follow, a series asking the questions that matter of the things that matter the most. Does it even make a difference? When I proposed to my wife in New York, it was with a vintage ring she had seen in a jewellery shop window here in the UK, which she had hinted at not so subtly as we were walking by. One day she was out with some friends, walked past the same window, and it was gone. She was devastated, thinking it had been bought by someone else. Several months later, she was obviously surprised when this is the ring I pulled out down on one knee. A couple of years after that, she was driving back from a music concert with friends when all of a sudden she noticed that the stone from her ring, a turquoise opal, was missing. She screamed and pulled the car over. They all scrambled around looking for it. Fortunately, it was just on the driver's seat where she was sitting. We're so grateful that in our church we knew a manager at a jeweller's who was able to fix the stone in place with a new binding, and the ring was restored. There is something within us which calls us to fix precious things and not throw them away. Gandhi, the famous pacifist, once said, "I like your Christ, I don't like your Christians. They are so unlike your Christ." For many people, Christianity is cosmetic, not central or critical to who they are. It's what they do on a Sunday, like a lifestyle choice, what you say you believe, what you tick on a form. Author Brennan Manning said, "The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable." Christians are hypocrites. They say one thing and do another. You've heard this story before. Hypocrisy isn't falling short of a standard, it's pretending to be holy, but not. It's the stuff of Christian celebrities who suddenly are found out for stuff they've done that they've kept secret. But Christians are all works in progress, who should be authentic about their struggles, while being open to God, transforming them from the inside out. This is why people often claim faith to be a personal thing. What I do in private has nothing to do with you. Believe whatever makes you happy, but don't force your views on me. Only Jesus didn't say that. In fact, following Jesus guarantees impacting other people because of what you believe. One of the metaphors that Jesus used to describe how his followers should behave was to be salt and light. The context was what has been called the Sermon on the Mount, or the Beatitudes, consisting mainly of teachings around character. Today, salt is used to enhance flavour. Who doesn't love salt on your fries? But in the first century, there were no fridges or freezers, and the only way to preserve meat was to rub salt into it. Christians have a responsibility to preserve morality, justice, and influence society, and to bring out flavour. Everyone knows William Wilberforce helped end slavery, but not how much his Christian faith played a role. He was convinced God had called him to two things: to abolish the slave trade and to reform people's manners, preserve and flavour. He lived to see his first mission accomplished. Josephine Butler was another driven by her Christian faith, who took on the Victorian government to reform laws that oppressed women, and she would go into the workhouses and rescue women from prostitution, opening her home to them. I could go on and on, pointing to advances in medicine, prison reform, limiting children working, orphanages, education for all, and so much more. salt can lose its flavour. It can become diluted and cease to be as powerful as a preservative. And maybe that's what we see too often. People who say they're a Christian but do nothing, out of fear of rocking the boat, a kind of apathy, or not taking the words of Jesus seriously. Light is different. We take it for granted now, a flick of the switch, a voice command. But in the first century, there was little light at night other than the moon and stars. Light shines brightly in the darkness. It's our words and works that make us stand out in a distinctive way. Jesus shows how absurd it is to hide light under a bowl. Why would you not let light shine? If they see what you are like and how you live, they'll thank God for you and see that God has made the difference. 2nd century Christian Justin Martyr put it this way: "We who formerly treasured money and possessions more than anything else, now hand over everything we have to a treasury for all and share it for everyone who needs it. We who formerly hated and murdered one another and did not even share our hearth with those of a different tribe because of their customs, now, after Christ's appearance, live together and share the same table. Now we pray for our enemies and try to win those who hate us." One of the surprising things about Jesus' life was that he came not to the wealthy nobility in Jerusalem or into the heart of the Roman Empire, but grew up in a small village in North Israel called Nazareth. Paul recognized how God seemed to choose the kinds of people that, in the world, we would ignore. In 1 Corinthians, he points out that not many of the early followers of Jesus were of the aristocracy. Not many were intellectuals or wealthy. In fact, he says that God chooses those who are not, to shame those who are. That's a powerful image. It doesn't discount people with social status, plenty of cash, or PhDs. But it's not where the focus is. And even more than that, people who are not simply sent out to go it alone, but are part of a movement. Paul in Philippians 1 thanks God for those who work with him in partnership to bring the gospel, the good news about Jesus, to others. He writes to others in Corinth to tell them that we are Christ's ambassadors. God is making his appeal through us. Ambassadors reflect and represent an official position. And Gandhi should have been saying, "I like your Christ, and I like your Christians. They are so like your Christ." Ambassadors of Christ literally partner with him to bring what he wants into the world. Just like William Wilberforce and Josephine Butler, Brennan Manning should have been able to say that the greatest single cause of Christian faith in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and walk out the door and affirm him by their lifestyle. This is what an unbelieving world simply finds believable. The gospel is more than just words. It's transformation. It's bringing light into dark places, peace to brokenness, and healing to hurt. It is a mission of unleashing a kingdom of heaven to earth because of Jesus' death and resurrection. The questions for you to consider at the end of this session. What in your life would you love God's help with? How is God calling you to partner with him in bringing his kingdom? In what ways could you be salt and light in your situation?